You know, out of all the cameras that I own, there's one camera that I would definitely recommend anybody that's thinking about getting a camera for YouTube, and it's very simple. It is the Sony ZV-E10. Now, yes, I do have the Sony A7S III. I do have the Sony A7 IV. I have the Sony FX30. I've got the FDRX 3000. I've got the trusty little Sony ZV-1 that I do all of my B-roll shots with. This one here is a fixed lens, and I wanted something interchangeable to use that was actually on a budget. And that's why I thought, you know what, I'm going to explore and try out the Sony ZV-E10 because it is an interchangeable lens, APS-C, so lenses are abundant, but I got it with the kit lens. It's a 16 to 50 millimeter, 3.5 to 5.6 f-stop, so it's not the brightest lens, but in a pinch it'll do. And the nice thing is, even with the kit lens, the image quality is very good, especially in 1080p, which is what you're looking at right now, and I'm going to upscale it up to 4K, but the 4K is very good on this. I mean, it is very, very good on this. Why do I not use 4K on the Sony ZV-E10 while I'm holding it in my hand? Well, first off, it does have a crop whenever you go into 4K, and the rolling shutter is a bit of an issue. But if you have it set up on a tripod, then you don't have to worry about 4K at all in that rolling shutter because you've got a nice locked off shot. Like I said, lenses for the Sony ZV-E10 are abundant APS-C Sony E-mount lenses. I mean, if you need something that's got a wider zoom to it, you can get that because I actually got the 28 to 70 full frame lens, and I can use it with the Sony ZV-E10. And yes, it will crop in. It won't be a 28 millimeter anymore, but that's a nice thing. You get it, what, turns out the 42 millimeter, and the 70 will turn into a 105. So you've got a really nice zoom range if you want to use that. And I got that on eBay for $83. But if you want something a little bit wider, you can get like the Sony 11 millimeter. It is an f1.8, which is super fast. Great autofocus because it's a native Sony lens and it gives you that really wide perspective. I'll be doing a review on this Sony 11mm in the upcoming video. This thing rocks. It doesn't have OSS like the kit lens for the Sony ZV-E10, but that's not much of a problem because you've got two ways that you can do it. Actually, you've got three. You can put on active image stabilization on inside the Sony ZV-E10, but now you have an additional crop if you go active on it. Or you can do the second way, which is just use Premiere Pro, do warp stabilizer, and on the smoothest, instead of 50%, knock it down to 1%. That's all that you need for handheld vlogging, and I'll show that here. And here's a quick example of what stabilization can look like. So this is just standard stabilization, and now I'm going to do it in Premiere Pro with warp stabilizer just at 1%. See, it works really well. And the third way, you can use Sony's free software. It's called Catalyst Browse. It will actually smooth out all of the jolts and jitters. So you've got three different ways that you can take care of stabilization with the Sony ZV-E10 and its kit lens. And the OSS on this is not the greatest. It's kind of like any of the other cameras out there. Stabilization is not great in any of the mirrorless cameras out there. A lot of people say, well, this one is gimbal-like. There are no mirrorless cameras that are gimbal-like, but just imagine if GoPro came out with a mirrorless camera using their image stabilization technology. That would be groundbreaking. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Sony ZV-E10. So for $700 and change, you can get one with the kit lens, and it is a fantastic starter camera. The fact that it has interchangeable lenses, so as your needs grow and your finances grow, you can grow into some more lenses for it. You can plug in an external microphone like I've got right now with the Deity D4 Mini, and that's really nice because, the inboard microphones are not bad in a pinch. I usually just use it for scratch audio, but if you need a little bit better audio, you always want to go with an external audio source. Now, before I always used like the Canon M50 for little talking headshots, or if I was doing live streaming at home. Definitely switched up to the Sony ZV-1 and now the Sony ZV-E10 because it makes live streaming so much easier. Now, yes, I can use the Sony A7 IV or the Sony A7S III, which is just superior. These are great cameras. And by the way, it's not that I'm a fanboy of Sony's, but I've got a lot of Sony cameras. So some people may say, oh, well, this is just a pitch for Sony. It's not a pitch for Sony. I mean, you have to say image quality. If image quality is good, you have to call it out. And I have to call it out. Sony has been, they've made leaps and bounds, especially with the autofocus. I mean, look at that. Autofocus, boom, face, boom, lens, face, lens. It's not like my old Lumix G7, which that thing, it decided what it was going to focus on all on its own. Sometimes it was me, sometimes it was a background, and there was a lot of pulsing that went on. And something to keep in mind about the Sony ZV-E10, it's not just a video-centric camera. You can actually use it for photos as well, and I'll show you some of those now. So if I was just starting off on YouTube in 2023, what camera would I recommend that you start off with, especially if you're on a little bit of a tight budget but you want the best image quality possible? Yeah, the Sony ZV-E10. Product links in the description below. Now it's time for some more coffee. Bye.